Good afternoon, and welcome to the On the Record portion of the Rockbridge Report. My name is Burl Roulette, and I'm here with 6th District Republican Committee Chairman Wendell Walker. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Burl.
Now, with the Republican primary election, now there are 4 candidates left. However, Romney seems to be pulling ahead. Is there any of the candidates that you see that could pose a challenge to Romney to take the nomination?
Well, at this point, the delegate count, Mitt Romney has about 2-to-1 over the next candidate level, and that's Rex Santorum. It's possible, but generally by the time you get this far into the process, you're starting to pull ahead a little bit. I think with the money in the organization that Mitt Romney has, certainly he can get the delegates he needs by the convention.
Do you believe that the process will go all the way to the convention, or do you think that we'll have a candidate sometime before then?
Well, Burl, that's the fun part of politics, especially with the Republicans right now. I would hope, personally, in my opinion, that we would have a candidate before we get to the August 27th Republican convention there in Tampa, Florida. If it should go to the convention, the Virginia delegates are bound to support Mitt Romney because he won the Virginia Republican primary. After that first round, then the delegates are released, and that's when it becomes almost like a free fall. Anybody at that point then could surface as a nominee and be elected at the convention.
Okay. Now, so far into the process, how have the 2 and 3 candidates, Santorum and Gingrich, been able to hang on for so long and run such a close campaign into the spring?
I think maybe, in my opinion, having been out here in politics for a long time, it's the issues that are driving the people to support the individual candidates. So you have Mitt Romney, a very successful businessman, a governor from Massachusetts. Then you also have conservative Rex Santorum, who is strong on pro-life issues, experience in the U.S. Senate. Then you have former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Newt Gingrich, who is very good at articulating the ideas and views of the Republican Party. And then, of course, Congressman Ron Paul, who's been faithfully out there against the federal government spending. So each one brings certain issues to the campaigns, and that's what people are looking at and examining and determining who they want to get behind and support.
Okay, you said this is a campaign of issues. Then what will be the biggest issue in the general election?
I say that when we come out of the Republican National Convention later in August, whomever that candidate that the party chooses, the #1 target, without question, is going to be Obamacare. That is the issue that so many of the candidates are campaigning on right now, overturning Obamacare. And as you and I are speaking right now, the Supreme Court justices in Washington, D.C. are hearing the cases relating to Obamacare, whether it is legal or not.
Okay, and you said that all of the delegates from Virginia are mostly bound to vote for Mitt Romney, and this is coming from the primary earlier this year. Now, there were only the 2 names on that primary ballot, Mitt Romney and Ron Paul. Could you explain why the other 2 nominees failed to get onto the ballot?
In Virginia, the individual parties have the power and the ability to choose the process for their candidates. So such is the case with the primary. Last year, July, we determined, the Republican Party State Central determined that the process for the nominees for this year coming up in the Virginia primary would have to meet a certain number of registered voters signing petitions. Our standard may be higher than a lot of other states, but I'll also remind you, Burl, that this is the same process we used 4 years ago and for the past number of years as far as primary. 10,000 may seem like a lot, but at the same time, every candidate knew in July of 2011 what the requirements were in Virginia. The 2 that got on the ballot were committed to working very hard to get the delegates. Other candidates worked hard, but not hard enough. So the standard, I think, is fine. We may go back and look at maybe decreasing the number in the future as far as the party is concerned. But if it's not broken, what needs to be fixed? It's worked before. It's the candidates and their campaigns that failed, not the party.
Okay, and then one last question on the presidential election. Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell's name has been floating around for vice president for quite some time. Do you think that having McDonnell as the vice presidential candidate would help in Virginia? And if so, do you think it would be enough to win the state for the Republicans?
I believe our current governor, Bob McDonnell, who's doing an outstanding job from Virginians giving him such a high marks. I think what Governor McDonnell brings to the ticket, he brings the conservative, the Southern votes. And say, for instance, if Mitt Romney is the candidate that receives a nomination, then it's his choice to pick a VP candidate. I think that Governor Bob McDonnell does bring a lot to the table because people have had an opportunity to examine Virginia, its leadership, the fact that he's chairman of the Governors Association. So I think that says a lot about the values that Governor Bob McDonnell has. He can bring the Southern vote, and I think that is something that if Mitt Romney were the nominee would be very important to look at.
Okay, and now moving to state politics, the Virginia Senate passed a budget bill yesterday, less than a week into a special session, after they adjourned without passing one for the entirety of the normal legislative session. Could you explain, why you think that happened?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. It's just politics. It's politics in Virginia. When you have a 2020 and you have a lieutenant governor who's the deciding vote there, and the Constitution says that the lieutenant governor cannot vote on budget issues. It was a matter of the Democrats that were fighting for certain issues they wanted. And mainly that was committee sharing chairmanship. And the Republicans weren't willing to do that. So that was a fight earlier on in the process of the General Assembly. I think the Democrats were holding out and using the budget as a means by which to get chairmanship of some committees and get some things that they wanted done. And so I think that was the main reason that there wasn't a budget approved on time as it has been in times past. So we go into a little bit longer session. Now that they are agreeing to a budget, we'll have to wait and see what the vote turns out today.
Okay. Now for the Virginia Senate race, which will be coming up, George Allen and Tim Kaine are in a dead heat in a lot of poll numbers. Now, Allen has already one confirmed primary challenger in Jamie Radke, the Tea Party candidate from Chesterfield County, and could be facing up to two more for a total, or pardon me, up to three more for a total of four primary challengers. Tim Kaine, on the other hand, doesn't look like he'll be receiving any primary challengers. How could that help or hurt Allen in the general election to face such a varied primary competition if he does pull out the nomination as expected?
Well, I think Governor Allen certainly is just like the presidential candidates. What we're doing here in Virginia, we're doing what's happening on the national stage as far as the candidates. So there again, citizens are getting behind the candidates that best articulate their views or what they think Virginia needs as far as a U.S. senator, as far as representation. But June 12th, we'll go to the polls again to vote and determine who that candidate is going to be on the Republican ticket to run against former Governor Tim Kaine. So I don't see this as anything but just a strengthening of, say, assuming it is U.S. Governor George Allen, if he is a nominee. I think that just shows that more grassroots people that get involved in the political process will then get behind the candidate that they choose on June 12th. So if it's Governor Allen against Governor Kaine, certainly we'll have a very good race here in the Commonwealth of Virginia for U.S. Senate.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned, grassroots organizations becoming more involved in politics. Shifting gears kind of to local politics now. Within the Rockbridge County Republican Committee, recently at their mass meeting, the Tea Party swept all 5 of the elections for their executive committee. Now, is this a trend that you are seeing throughout the 6th District?
I think it's a trend, Burl, that we're seeing across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Certainly here in the 6th District, which is known for a lot of conservative representatives, whether they be local, state, or congressional. I think the fact that the Tea Party in the last several years are basically good conservative people that have been members of the Republican Party and feel like we're not representing them as well on the conservative side of the issues. And so therefore, they have come together as a group or organization, formed the Tea Party, and now they're out here getting involved in the political process. And as a result, there are areas, Lexington, as we've indicated, there are other areas throughout the Congressional District that the Tea Party is having a strong influence in. And so they're coming in and putting in people that they feel that they can best represent them versus the local party, or what they may refer to as the establishment party at times.
Okay. And do you think that that will strengthen the party in the long run, or could it divide it?
No, I think it's going to strengthen, because we've seen, especially over in the Lynchburg area where the Senate seat number 22, Tom Garrett won that. That was a open seat that was designed by the Democrats for a Democrat. The fact that a Republican won that showed how the Tea Party and the Republican Party could come together and unite and elect a Republican. So I think you're going to see more interaction and more working together with the Tea Party and Republicans for the purpose of electing conservative candidates.
All right. And that's about all the time we have today for the On the Record portion of the Rockbridge Report. I'm Brill Roulette. Thanks for joining us.